The sky over Kepri 9 was broken, not metaphorically, physically. Massive scars split the clouds where orbital strikes had once torn the atmosphere apart, leaving permanent ionized fractures that glowed faintly even decades later. Lightning crawled sideways across the heavens, silent and slow, like a predator deciding where to strike next. Below, the land shimmered. What should have been sand was instead ground crystal, pulverized so fine it reflected the sky in 1,000 fractured colors. Each step crunched softly under human boots, the sound echoing far more than it should have. Elias Rook paused at the crest of a dune and scanned the horizon. Ruins, everywhere. Not collapsed buildings, melted ones. Towers bent like wax, transit rails fused into spirals, streets frozen mid-evaporation. This had once been a city, a real one, with families, markets, arguments, music. Now it was a graveyard the Empire had tried very hard to forget. Elias exhaled slowly, adjusting the seal on his respirator. "Low-risk salvage," he muttered to himself. "They always say that." His contract was simple. Retrieve a pre-purge Varelian data core rumored to contain navigational algorithms predating the Dominion's current hyperspace maps. Worth a fortune on the black channels. Worth a prison sentence or worse if the Empire caught him. Which was why he was alone. No crew, no backup, no witnesses. Just a human, a rifle slung over his back, and a stubborn refusal to believe that the galaxy belonged to tyrants by default. He activated his visor. HUD elements bloomed into existence, highlighting unstable ground, radiation pockets, and lingering energy signatures that never quite faded after orbital bombardment. Kepri 9 was officially classified as sterilized. Elias snorted. Sterilized worlds didn't breathe. He felt it as he moved deeper into the ruins, the strange pressure, like the air itself remembered being alive. Varelians had been psychic-sensitive species, attuned to emotional resonance. When the Dominion glassed their homeworld, something had soaked into the stone. Grief, rage, loss. Elias tried not to think about it. He reached the skeletal remains of what his map identified as a transit nexus, its great archways collapsed inward like broken ribs. The data core should be somewhere below, sealed in a sub-level vault designed to survive exactly this kind of catastrophe. As he stepped inside, his visor dimmed automatically, compensating for the sudden darkness. That was when he heard it. At first, Elias thought it was wind. Kepri 9 had strange acoustics and sound like to play tricks here. Then he heard it again. Breathing. Not mechanical, not animal. Panicked, uneven, alive. Elias froze mid-step. Every survival instinct he had screamed at him to back away. Survivors on purge worlds were rare, and when they existed, they were usually desperate, dangerous, or both. Slowly, deliberately, Elias powered down his rifle and let it hang loose at his side. "Hello?" he called out, keeping his voice low, calm, human. The breathing hitched. Something shifted deeper in the shadows. Elias followed the sound through a half-collapsed corridor, stepping over fused metal and crystalline debris until he reached a small alcove where the ceiling had partially caved in. There, curled against a fractured support column, was a Varelian female. She couldn't have been older than her early 20s by human standards. Her skin, once known for its vibrant bioluminescent patterns, was dulled almost to gray, the faint lines along her arms flickering weakly like dying embers. Her clothes were torn, burned, patched and repatched until the fabric barely held together. And her eyes were milky and unfocused, staring at nothing. Blind. She flinched violently when Elias's shadow crossed her, pulling her knees to her chest and raising her hands in a useless, defensive gesture. "Please, I have nothing left. I swear it."
Elias felt something twist in his chest.
He'd seen fear before, lots of it. This wasn't fear. This was expectation. Expectation of pain. Expectation of abandonment. Expectation that mercy was a myth told to children who didn't survive long enough to grow up. Elias crouched slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Hey," he said gently, "I'm not Empire. I'm not here to hurt you." Her head tilted slightly, not toward his voice, but through it, as if she were listening with something other than ears. "You feel wrong," she murmured. He blinked. "Wrong how?" "Not empty," she said. "They are always empty." Elias almost laughed. The sound came out rough instead. "Yeah," he said softly. "That tracks." She hesitated, then lowered her hands a fraction. "My name is Sila," she said after a moment. "If you are going to kill me, please do it quickly. I am very tired." Elias swallowed. The Dominion classified blind Varelians as non-viable remnants, psychic damage from military scanners, neural burns, unfortunate side effects. Unofficially, they were abandoned, left behind during forced relocations because they slowed transports and consumed resources. Elias could leave. He should leave. His mission clock was ticking, and staying increased the risk of patrol detection exponentially. Instead, he reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar, unwrapped it slowly so she could hear the sound. "I'm not going to kill you," he said, "and you shouldn't be here alone." Her lips trembled. "They said no one would come back. They said the dead worlds were quiet." Elias looked around at the ruins. "They lied," he said, "about a lot of things." The wayward Finch wasn't much to look at. Its hull was a patchwork of alloys from 3 different manufacturers and at least 2 different wars. The paint was scorched, the engines hummed slightly off-key, and one of the cargo bay doors only sealed properly if you kicked it twice. But it flew. And more importantly, it flew quiet. Silas sat stiffly in the co-pilot seat, hands folded in her lap, listening intently to every sound the ship made as it lifted off Kepri 9. She hadn't said much since they left the ruins. Elias didn't push. People who'd been abandoned learned to ration words the same way they rationed hope. "You don't have to take me with you," she said finally, her voice barely above the engine hum. "When we reach orbit, you can drop me at the refugee station." Elias adjusted the controls. "There is no refugee station within 3 jumps." She nodded, unsurprised. "There never is." Silence stretched between them. Then, carefully, Elias asked, "You weren't born blind?" "No," she said. "I remember light, color, the way the sky used to sing." He frowned. "Sing?" "Our world responded to us. Emotion shaped perception. Joy made the colors brighter. Fear sharpened edges." Elias exhaled slowly. "What happened to your sight?" She was quiet for a long time. "The scanners," she said eventually. "The Dominion said they were mapping psychic frequency bands. They said it was painless." Her fingers curled. "I screamed until my voice broke." Elias's jaw tightened. That night, after Sila had fallen asleep in the ship's small bunk, Elias sat alone in the cockpit staring at the stars. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't a miracle worker. But he was human. And humans had a long, proud tradition of hearing the word impossible and responding with "watch me." He pulled open a storage panel and began unloading personal equipment, optical sensors, neural interface prototypes, experimental HUD systems he'd built and discarded over the years. If the Empire had taken her sight with technology, then maybe technology could give something back. 3 days passed in a blur of sleeplessness. Prototype after prototype failed. Some overloaded her neural pathways. Others produced static so intense she physically recoiled.
One caused her to collapse in sobbing panic when it briefly flooded her mind with fragmented visual data she couldn't interpret. "I'm sorry," Elias said after the fourth failure, running a hand through his hair. "This might have been a stupid idea." Sailor reached out and touched his wrist. "You are trying," she said simply. "No one has tried before." That was enough. On the fifth attempt, Elias changed his approach entirely. Instead of forcing visual data into damaged optic pathways, he rerouted the system to interface with her psychic resonance centers, translating light into spatial emotion, shape, distance, intention. The visor was lightweight, contoured to her features, threaded with adaptive filaments that adjusted in real time. When he powered it on, the ship went very quiet. Sayla inhaled sharply. Her hands lifted, trembling, as if touching something invisible. She laughed suddenly, the sound breaking free like a dam collapsing. "I can feel the walls, the stars, you." Tears streamed down her cheeks. Elias felt his own eyes sting. "It's not sight," he said carefully, "not the way you remember it." She turned her head toward him with uncanny precision. "It is different," she said, "but it is beautiful." Neither of them noticed the Dominion tracking pulse that slipped through the Finch's shielding and vanished into the void. 4 days later, the stars went wrong. Sayla felt it first. Her head snapped up, visor humming softly as her awareness expanded beyond the ship. "They are here," she said. "Who's here?" Elias asked, already checking his sensors. Then the alarm screamed. 4 vessels dropped out of hyperspace around the wayward Finch, their hulls matte black, their signatures scrubbed clean of identification. Elite. The kind of ships you didn't see unless the Empire wanted something badly, very badly. The comm channel crackled to life. "Unidentified vessel, power down and prepare to be boarded." Elias's blood ran cold. Sayla's voice was steady. "They are hunters." The airlock cycled. 4 soldiers entered in perfect synchronization, armored dark as a starless void, weapons raised with surgical precision. Their leader removed his helmet. "Elias Rook, by order of the Dominion Admiralty, you are to surrender all Varelian technology and the asset designated Subject S-17. Sayla stood. "She is not an asset. She's a person," Elias said. The soldier's expression did not change. "That distinction," he replied, "has been deprecated." They built a home where no borders mattered, raising a rescued Varelian child beneath skies that welcomed every species. Elias never tried to be her eyes again. He simply stood beside her, and together they saw farther than either ever could alone. Across the stars, their bond became proof that mercy, once chosen, could change the fate of a galaxy.